There's a quiet kind of power in becoming the man she can't stop thinking about. And it's not because you're constantly texting her, blowing up her notifications, or bending over backward to get her attention. No, it's because you've transformed into something rare in her world. You've become calm, unshakably steady, quietly magnetic. You stand out not by trying to be louder than everyone else, but by doing the opposite. You don't need to compete for attention in a room full of noise. You are the contrast. You are the pause. Think about it. In a world where most men are scrambling for validation, trying to impress, to entertain, to be enough, you're simply present. No performance. Just solid, grounded energy. That alone makes you unforgettable. And here's what happens next. Long after the conversation ends, your presence lingers, like the final note of a beautiful song that echoes in silence. She wonders what you're doing, where you are, and more importantly, why no one else makes her feel quite the same.
Oh.
Even if she doesn't admit it out loud, her thoughts circle back to you. Over and over again. Why? Because you've become something she rarely experiences, peace. A man who knows how to control his energy, his time, and his emotions becomes unforgettable. That's what this video is all about. How to become that man. It's the kind of man who doesn't chase because he naturally attracts. So let's dive in. But before we do, ask yourself, in a world full of noise, what would it feel like to be the calm she craves but can't find anywhere else? You've become the calm in her chaos, the quiet presence that brings peace instead of pressure. But what happens when she starts to crave more of that stillness, even in your absence? That's when everything begins to shift. When a woman experiences emotional stability from you, something rare and grounding, she doesn't just notice it imprints on her. She begins to recognize that you're not like the others. You're not reacting to every high or low. You're not controlled by mood, swings, or dragged into petty arguments. You're not feeding into her stress. You're neutralizing it. Imagine her at the end of a long day. Work stress, drama with friends, overthinking, exhaustion. The world feels heavy and her mind is spinning. Then she thinks of you. It's not because you said something flashy, not because you tried to impress her, but because in her storm, you were the stillness. You made her feel safe, seen, calm. That kind of feeling, it's rare and it's addictive. She begins to associate your presence with relief, with clarity, with that breath of fresh air she didn't know she needed. And suddenly, you're not just someone she enjoyed spending time with. You're someone her mind returns to again and again. This is where the power of stoicism comes in. A stoic man doesn't chase emotions. He doesn't let external chaos define his internal state. He stays rooted, composed, unbothered, even when everything around him is falling apart. He remains still like a lake that refuses to ripple. And here's the secret most men never realize. Once a woman tastes that kind of stability, she'll never wants to lose it, because deep down, we all crave peace. And when you are peace, you don't need to force her to remember you. She just will. You've given her peace, something few can offer. Now it's time to become unforgettable by giving her something even more powerful, mystery. Let's be honest, most men reveal too much, too fast. They try to impress with a flood of words, telling their whole life story within a few conversations. Their dreams, their struggles, their emotions laid bare like a book open to the last chapter. But when everything is already on the table, what's left to wonder about? Curiosity dies in predictability. The moment a woman stops wondering about you is the moment she stops thinking about you. Instead, imagine this. You share a moment with her, a meaningful exchange, but you leave just enough unsaid. Just enough for her to sit with that silence later and ask herself, what's he really thinking? What's his next move? That silent question becomes a loop in her mind, playing long after you're gone. That's the power of mystery. That's how you stay on her mind. But let's be clear, this isn't about playing games. It's not about being manipulative or pretending to be someone you're not. True mystery comes from self-restraint, from choosing not to overshare, from letting your life speak louder than your words. You don't need to explain every thought, every plan, every dream. You don't need to seek her approval for who you are. You simply live with purpose. You stay centered. You stay focused. Seneca once said, "Silence is a lesson in itself." When you stay silent, not in coldness, but in confidence, you show her that your world doesn't revolve around being validated. You reveal that your energy is directed inward, toward your goals, your values, your mission, and that kind of man. That's someone she doesn't just notice. That's someone she remembers. Picture this. You've just had a great evening with her. The conversation flowed, the connection felt real. Most men would immediately follow up with texts, emojis, or social media likes, trying to extend that. Hi, but not you. You do something different. You pause. You give her space. And in that silence, that intentional gap, she starts to feel your absence in the best way. She wonders, why hasn't he texted me yet? Is he thinking about me? Did he enjoy our time together? That small seed of curiosity, it grows fast. Being mysterious doesn't mean being distant or cold. It means understanding the rhythm between closeness and space, between showing interest and holding back, between connection and independence. Let her discover you slowly, layer by layer, not all at once. Because the truth is, people value what they uncover, not what is handed to them immediately. You've planted the seed of mystery. Now it's time to nurture it with rhythm, presence, and just enough absence to make her feel your value grow in the silence. Most men misunderstand this dynamic. They either smother a woman with constant attention or disappear completely, hoping distance alone will make her desire them. But neither extreme works. The secret lies in knowing when to lean in and when to pull back. A stoic man understands rhythm. He knows life moves in waves, not straight lines. Connection does too. It's not about always being there or always being gone. It's about showing up with purpose and stepping back with wisdom. When you're with her, you're really with her. You're not glued to your phone or half listening with one foot out the door. No, you're locked in. You make her feel like, in that moment, she's the only thing that matters. You listen with intent. You laugh with presence. You give her your full energy, undistracted and genuine. And then you disappear. Not out of coldness, not as a tactic, but as a man who has his own mission to return to. You've given her a meaningful experience now. You give her the space to feel it, to sit with it, to miss it. That space, that's where the longing grows. Imagine you take her on a simple but meaningful date. Maybe it's coffee and a walk. In the park, you talk about dreams, about things no one usually asks her. You make her laugh not in a forced way, but in a way that opens something inside her. You make her feel heard, seen, safe. And then, nothing. No flood of follow-up. Texts. No. Did you get home okay? With a string of emojis. Just space. Just silence. In that silence, the memory blooms. She replays the conversation. The way you made her feel. She starts wondering, did he enjoy himself? Is he thinking about me too? That subtle tension becomes emotional gravity, pulls her thoughts toward you without effort. Because the experience you gave her had weight hand. Now it echoes in her solitude. True emotional connection needs both presence and absence. Too much presence becomes suffocating. Too much absence becomes detachment. But balanced, it becomes unforgettable. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet always returned to solitude. Stillness, to reflection. Be like that. Give fully, then return to your center. That's when you become the man whose presence lingers even in your absence. You've learned how to give her space. What happens when she challenges that space, when she tests your presence, your patience, your strength? That's when your calm becomes your greatest weapon. At some point, she will test you. It might come softly, a playful tease, a sly comment, or it might be more direct, something sharp, a moment that stings, an emotional jab. Whether she realizes it or not, it's her way of asking, is this man truly who he claims to be? Most men fail here. They get flustered, defensive. They lash out. Their emotions take the wheel. And just like that, they lose control. And they lose her respect. But a stoic man? He doesn't crumble when the wind picks up. He stands rooted. Think of yourself as a tree in the middle of a storm. The wind may rage, the rain may pour, but you don't shake, you don't scream back. You don't try to prove yourself with frantic words. You simply are, calm, present, unbothered. Imagine this, you're at dinner, and she brings up something you'd rather not revisit, maybe a past mistake, a vulnerability, something she knows will push your buttons. The average man might raise his voice, argue, or walk away frustrated. But you pause, you breathe. Maybe you meet her gaze and say, "Interesting. Why do you say that?" Maybe you let silence do the heavy lifting. That space, that pause, that restraint says more about you than any speech ever could. And that's what she remembers. That's what leaves her stunned. Later that night, or even days later, she replayed that moment in her head. Why didn't he react? Why didn't he defend himself? Is he really that centered? Or is there something deeper to him I don't understand yet? That curiosity is powerful, because in a world full of reactive, impulsive men, you've just shown her something different, something rare. You've shown her strength and stillness. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your own judgment about it. You control your reactions. You control your peace. So when she tests you, smile, stay calm. Respond with presence, not emotion." That's the moment you become unforgettable, not because you shouted louder, but because you stood taller. You've shown her you can remain calm under pressure. Now it's time to reveal the foundation beneath that core values, because real attraction doesn't come from approval. It comes from conviction. Most men don't realize this. The moment you start chasing a woman's approval, you begin to lose the very essence that made you attractive in the first place. You shift from being a grounded presence to a reactive one. You wait for her to text back. You analyze every message. You second-guess your actions just to avoid losing her. Without knowing it, you give away your power. But there's another way, a far more powerful way. The Stoic path begins when you stop living for reactions and start living for your principles. Epictetus said it best. First decide what kind of man you want to be, then do what you have to do. He didn't say be who she wants you to be. He said decide for yourself. And that's the difference. Instead of waking up and wondering, does she still like me? You ask yourself, did I live with integrity today? Did I follow through on my word? Did I lead with discipline, purpose, and calm? That's the mindset of a man who's hard to forget. Picture this. You're spending time with her. Most men would try to impress her with loud stories, exaggerated jokes, or over-the-top charm. But you don't need that. You're comfortable in silence. You're consistent in your words. You listen more than you speak. And when it's time to leave because you've got training in the morning or a project to complete, you leave. Not because you're playing hard to get, but because you value your growth. You don't apologize for having priorities. You honor them. And that's when something shifts in her perception. She sees that your world doesn't orbit around her, that your worth isn't tied to her response. She starts wondering, who is this man? Why doesn't he need my attention to feel complete? What's driving him when I'm not looking? It's when you become unforgettable. Because in a world full of men chasing attention, you're building legacy. While others seek approval, you build standards. And while others fall into anxiety, you stand firm in your code. She won't forget that. Because the man who leads with values doesn't have to ask for respect. He commands it simply by being who he is, with or without her watching. You've built yourself on values. But now comes the next level of mastery, knowing how to use your attention, because attention is power, and most men give it away without thinking. Think of attention like currency you wouldn't walk through. A market tossing out cash to every vendor without a thought, right? Yet that's exactly what so many men do with their energy. They give their focus away for free to women, to distractions, to fleeting dopamine hits. Then wonder why they feel empty, forgotten, or overlooked. The truth is, attraction isn't built on how much you say or how often you show up. It's built on where and how you invest your energy. And if you give too much, too fast, without any standards, you lose value in her mind. Picture this. You meet a woman, and things feel great. There's chemistry. There's connection. So most men in that moment will go all in. They'll text her constantly, like all her posts, reply instantly to everything she says. They think if I show her I care, she'll want me more. But what actually happens is she stops wondering, the mystery fades, and before long your presence becomes routine, expected, even ordinary. But when you're selective with your attention, when you give it with intention, not desperation, you create space. And it's in that space where curiosity grows. She begins to think, why hasn't he messaged me yet? Is he thinking about me? What's going on in his world? That silence. It's not emptiness. It's a seed. But that seed grows fast. The Stoic man understands this. He doesn't let impulse dictate his focus. He doesn't chase stimulation. He chooses where to place his mind, his energy, and his effort, just like an investor choosing the right opportunity. Knows his attention is sacred. That's what makes you different. So ask yourself, are you spending your attention wisely? Or are you handing it out like spare change, hoping it'll buy you significance? Think back to the last time you gave too much, too soon. Did it strengthen the connection or slowly dissolve it? When you begin to guard your focus, when you stop scattering your energy and start directing it with purpose, something shifts. You stop chasing her thoughts and start becoming the man who lives in them without even trying. You've learned to guard your attention like treasure. But there's one final power move that separates the average man from the unforgettable. 1. Knowing when and how to walk away with peace. Most people don't know how to leave without noise. They explode. They argue. They send long emotional texts or try to manipulate the situation to get closure. But a man anchored in stoic strength knows something deeper. The greatest display of self-control is the ability to let go quietly. Think about it. When she starts to pull away, when she becomes inconsistent, cold, or begins testing your boundaries not out of playfulness, but to see how far she can push, you don't chase. You don't beg, you observe. And if her actions no longer align with your peace, you choose to walk calmly, not out of pride, not to punish her, but because you value your emotional clarity more than temporary attention. Picture this. You're dating someone. At first, it's amazing. But slowly, she begins to shift. Maybe she replies late, cancels plans last minute, tries to stir insecurity just to see if you'll react. Most men panic here. They send 3 texts in a row. They try to fix things. They try harder to win her back. But you step back. You don't play her games because your worth isn't determined by her approval. You go hit the gym. You dive deeper into your work. Spend time with your circle, your passions, your path. You keep growing, and you do it without noise. That silence, that graceful exit, it echoes louder than any argument ever could. And that's when something powerful happens. Not in you, but in her. She begins to replay it all. Not just what you said, but how you didn't say anything. You didn't fold. How you didn't plead. How you walked away with dignity when most men would have unraveled. That moment becomes a mirror. And in that mirror, she sees something rare. A man who respects himself. A man who won't stay where he isn't valued. A man whose absence feels heavier than another man's presence. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have the power to revoke your suffering at any moment." And you do. You choose peace over performance. Strength over noise. Detachment over control. That's the man she won't forget. You've walked away in peace. But the story doesn't end with your silence. If you want to live rent-free in her mind, you need to go deeper, not with charm, but with depth. Charm is easy. It's surface level, confident smile, a clever line, a moment of flirtation, sure, it might catch her attention for a night, but it fades fast. Because when she's alone, lying awake, what will she really be thinking about? It won't be your smile. It'll be what you made her feel. Most men never go beyond the surface. They stay safe in shallow waters. They talk about favorite movies, weekend plans, maybe drop a few jokes. And sure, those things are fun, but they don't linger. If you want her to keep thinking about you long after you're gone, you have to be willing to go where most won't. Into the depth. Into the questions that matter. To the parts of you that are real, raw, and not immediately visible. It's not about oversharing or being overly emotional. It's about showing her that you've thought about life, that you've wrestled, with failure, that you've questioned purpose, grown from pain, and found meaning through it all. Instead of asking her, "What do you like to do for fun?" ask, "What makes you feel alive?" Or instead of the usual, "How was your day?" ask, "What's something you're building right now that no one knows about?" Ask those kinds of questions and answer them yourself when the moment feels right. You show her that you're not just another guy with smooth lines. You're a man with layers, a man who thinks deeply, feels fully, and doesn't run from vulnerability. She may hesitate at first. People aren't used to being invited into meaningful conversations. But later, when the noise of the world quiets down, it's your words that echo. It's your presence that returns, not because you tried to impress her, but because you made her feel something real, Seneca once said. As is a tale, so is life. Not how long it is, but how good it is what matters. The same applies to your connection. It's not about how long you talk, it's about how deep you're willing to go. When you do, you don't just stay on her mind, you stay in her soul. You've shown her your depth. But to truly live in her mind, you must become a paradox she can't solve steady at your core, but unpredictable in your expression. That's the final secret. Consistency wrapped in mystery. You become too predictable, her mind drifts. If you're too chaotic, she won't trust you. But when you master both consistency and unpredictability in perfect balance, that's when she becomes captivated. Consistency is your foundation. Your values, your purpose, your discipline. It's the unwavering part of you that doesn't change based on mood or circumstance. Marcus Aurelius didn't wake up each morning and decide whether or not he would be virtuous. He simply was, every day, without compromise. And that's what makes a woman feel secure. She knows who you are at your core, but unpredictability, that's the spark. That's what keeps her mind curious and her emotions alive. It's what makes her wonder, what's he going to do next? Not in fear, but in fascination. One day you might share a quote that moved you. The next, a spontaneous joke that makes her laugh. One evening, you take her on a deep conversation about fear and growth. The next, you tease her in a playful moment of lightness. When you show up in new ways, but always from the same core you, become endlessly interesting. You don't fall into routine, you evolve, you surprise, you live. Even your presence in real life reflects this. You don't take her to the same restaurant every week. Maybe this time, it's a quiet spot with jazz playing in the background. Maybe next time, it's an unplanned walk beneath the stars. These moments, they don't just create memories, they create emotional fingerprints. Stoicism teaches you to be like a tree, rooted deeply, but alive like the wind. Your values keep you grounded. Your spontaneity makes you unforgettable. And that's the man she can't quite figure out but can't stop thinking about either. Because you don't need to chase her thoughts. You simply live in a way that invites them. And that's how you stay on her mind, not just for a moment, but for good. You've shown her calm, mystery, purpose, and power. But here's the final truth. The man she can't stop thinking about is not chasing attention. He's embodying something far more rare. He's the man who leads with presence.
The one
Who doesn't need to say much because his energy already speaks volumes. He's the man who walks with intention, who listens without needing to interrupt, who looks you in the eyes without flinching. He's aware of himself, of his values, of his path. And because of that, he's unforgettable. When you live with this level of quiet strength, you don't have to force her to notice you. You don't have to strategize, manipulate, or play games. You simply exist in a way that most people can't ignore. You become the calm in a chaotic world. You become the gravity in a room full of noise. You become the kind of man who, whether you're with her or not, lingers in her mind. Not because you begged for her attention, but because you became something she doesn't see every day, a man who doesn't need her to feel whole. And that's the paradox. The more you chase her thoughts, the more they slip through your fingers. But the moment you stop trying to be unforgettable and focus instead on being undeniably grounded, that's when she remembers you, again and again and again. So remember this. You don't win her attention by chasing validation. You win by choosing peace over chaos, by showing restraint when others crave reaction, by walking away when respect is gone, by asking meaningful questions, by being fully present, by living a life that excites you first. You are the calm. You are the contrast. You are the mystery wrapped in purpose. And that energy, that posture, that self-respect, it lingers. Echoes. It pulls her back without a word. In the end, becoming the man she constantly thinks about isn't about chasing. It's about becoming. And once you step into that energy fully, not only will she remember you, you'll never forget who you are. You've heard the message, but don't let it end here, because becoming the man she thinks about constantly is only one part of something bigger, becoming the man you were meant to be. If this video shifted your mindset, even just a little, pause for a second and sit with that. What part resonated with you most? Was it the reminder to stay calm under pressure? The realization that your attention is your power? Or maybe it was the part about walking away with dignity when peace is no longer present. Whatever it was, let it sink in. Not just as a good idea, but as a principle to live by. If this hit home, leave a comment. Share what spoke to you. Or type just one line that locks it in for you. Something like, "She didn't forget my became unforgettable." These simple declarations matter. Because when you put your transformation into words, it becomes real. It becomes anchored in your mind. And if you haven't already, hit the like button. Not just to support the channel, but to remind yourself that this version of you, the grounded, focused, powerful you, is worth investing in. But don't stop here. This is just one layer of the journey. There's more work to do, more growth waiting, more peace to uncover, more control to reclaim. The next version of you isn't built by watching one video. He's built by what you choose to do next. So keep going. Click on one of the next videos on your screen and dive deeper. Whether it's about mastering your emotions, handling rejection like a stoic, or becoming the man who doesn't flinch under pressure, your path continues. Let this be your reminder. You don't rise by chasing approval. You rise by choosing discipline. You rise by protecting your peace. You rise by letting go of who you were and stepping fully into who you're becoming. And I'll be here too. Guide you through every step. Now take a breath, click forward. The path doesn't end with this video. It continues with your next step, the next video, the next mindset shift, the next version of you. And I want to walk that path with you. If you've made it this far, that already says something powerful about you. You're not just scrolling for quick entertainment. You're searching for depth, for growth, for something real. And that puts you ahead of most. But awareness alone isn't enough. So what matters now is what you do next. So if you're ready, really, ready to keep leveling up, to keep sharpening your focus, your strength, your emotional mastery, then don't let the journey stop here. Right now, you'll see more videos on your screen. Yes. These aren't just more content, they're tools. Each one is built to help you become calmer under pressure, more resilient in heartbreak, stronger in solitude, and wiser when it counts most. Choose one. Click. Keep going. If this video helped you even just one moment that made you pause or breathe deeper, let me know in the comments. Type a takeaway, a mindset shift, or simply write, "I'm on the path." So that way I know you're not just watching, you're walking. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Not just because it supports this channel, but because it supports you. When you subscribe, you're building an environment around you that reinforces growth, space that reminds you every time you log in. I don't settle, I rise. Also hit the bell icon, because the next video might be the one that unlocks something in you. A breakthrough, a realization, or just the calm voice you needed in a noisy day. Remember, you're not here to chase anyone. You're not here to prove yourself. You're here to become the kind of man who doesn't need to be remembered, because he's impossible to forget. Now breathe, center yourself, and when you're ready, click forward. The next version of you is waiting. Becoming the man she thinks about constantly isn't about playing games. It's not about manipulating attention or crafting the perfect image. It's about becoming someone rare, someone real. It's about becoming the man who doesn't need External validation to feel whole. The man who can stand in silence and still radiate power. The man whose value is not declared but demonstrated through how he lives. That man doesn't chase. He doesn't perform. He builds. Builds himself in discipline, in character, in restraint. He's not loud, but he's present. He doesn't demand attention. He draws it effortlessly. It's not through flash, but through focus. And that kind of man? He stays on her mind not because he begged to be remembered, but because he's unforgettable. So if there's one thing you take from this message, let it be this. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth. You don't need to fight to be chosen. You are not in competition with other men. You are in competition with your old self, with your past habits, with your past insecurities, the version of you that would have reacted, chased, or crumbled. Let that man go. Become the one who pauses before speaking, who thinks deeply, who walks with calm, who can give love without losing himself, and walk away when peace is no longer on the table. That's not weakness. That's not coldness. That's power. And in a world full of noise, confusion, and chaos, that kind of quiet, centered masculinity is magnetic. So continue your journey, not just to make her think about you, but to become the man you think about when no one's watching. The man you admire when you look in the mirror. The man who no longer needs attention to feel valuable because he's already chosen himself. She notices. But more importantly, you will, because this isn't about her. It never was. This is about you. And it always will be. You've heard the message. You've felt the shift. Now there's just one question left. Will you live it? This isn't just another video. It's a mirror, a challenge, a reminder of the man you were born to become. Not perfect, not always composed, but progressing, quietly, powerfully, every day. Most people watch something that moves them, then go right back to scrolling, right back to distractions, right back to reacting. But you're not most people, because you're still here. That says something important about you. Means you're ready to stop chasing and start building. Act. To stop explaining and start becoming. To stop hoping for peace and start choosing it. The man she thinks about constantly isn't defined by what he says. He's defined by how he lives, how he holds himself, how he treats himself when no one's watching, how he leads not through control, but through calm. And that man, he's not a fantasy. He's not out of reach. He's already inside you, waiting for you to stop hesitating, waiting for you to step forward, waiting for you to stop trying to be noticed and start being undeniable. So here's what you do now. Close this video and look at your life. What needs to be refined? What needs to be let go of? What needs to be built? Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for approval. Choose discipline. Choose purpose. And choose the path that calls you forward, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. And when the time comes when you do think of her again, ask, does she still think about me? Ask instead, would the man I'm becoming still chase what I used to? If the answer's no, smile. You're on the right path. It's your reminder. You don't need to force anyone to remember. You only need to become someone they can't forget. And the journey starts right now. Before you go, remember this. The goal isn't to be remembered by everyone. It's to become unforgettable to the right people by first becoming unforgettable to yourself. We live in a world where most people are chasing applause. They want to be seen, to be followed, to be admired, but a stoic man. He lives differently. He doesn't chase the echo. He creates the source. He doesn't shout to be heard. He speaks only when it matters. When he does, people listen. That's what you're building now. A man who doesn't move through life trying to be impressive, but moves with purpose and therefore becomes impressive. A man who isn't addicted to being chosen, but who wakes up every day choosing himself. A man who can walk through silence and still feel full because his peace doesn't depend on anyone else's attention. It's that kind of man. He's not common, and that's why she noticed. But this was never about her. This was always about you. So ask yourself, who am I when no one is watching? Who do I want to become, not to get something, not to win someone, but simply because that version of me would make me proud? That's your compass. And along this journey, there will be tests. You'll be tempted to explain yourself, to chase validation, to react emotionally. But every time you choose discipline instead of impulse, stillness instead of noise, direction instead of distraction, you become stronger, clearer, closer to who you were always meant to be. That's the man who doesn't beg to be remembered. That's the man who becomes a standard, not just a story. So move forward with that in mind. Be the man whose silence speaks louder than words, whose presence is felt even in his absence, whose energy is rooted in something deeper than performance. You don't need to go viral. You don't need to be liked by everyone. You just need to be respected with yourself. Because once you respect yourself fully, the world will follow. And if you're still here, that means something powerful. It means you're not just curious, you're committed. It's not just listening, but transforming. Most people hear words like these and nod in agreement, then scroll away, back to comfort, back to distraction. But you stayed. You listened. You felt something. And whether you realize it or not, that feeling, that pause, that shift inside you, that's the beginning. The beginning of a quieter mind, a more focused presence. A man who no longer begs for clarity because he creates it. Maybe this video reminded you of something you'd forgotten. Or maybe it introduced you to a version of yourself you hadn't met yet. Either way, this isn't the end of the conversation. This is the point where you decide how the next chapter gets written. Because becoming the man she constantly thinks about isn't the ultimate prize, it's the byproduct. The result of something far more meaningful. Becoming a man you think about with pride. A man you no longer doubt. A man whose actions match his values, even when no one's watching. A man who doesn't talk about his worth, he embodies it. So don't just let this video sit in your history. Let it shape your future. Go journal what hit hardest. Reflect on what version of you you're ready to leave behind. Then act on it today, not tomorrow, not next week, today. Because the man you want to be isn't found in more thinking. It's found in disciplined doing. And if this spoke to you, if it made something inside you, go still share that. It's not for attention, but to declare your growth. Even if it's just one sentence in the comments or one action offline that no one sees, let this be the moment that marks the shift. Moment you stopped watching stoicism and started living it. Because that man, the one who lives what he learns, is the man no one forgets.